On the call and in the room, we are recording this meeting. Just be aware.
Virtuals to each other. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for attending, either in person or virtually. I guess, has anybody got anything to add to the agenda first? Then let's do introductions in the room first. And you want to start, Katie?
Sure. Katie Keefe from the Environmental Program Division Manager here at Adams County.
I am Lisa Olavito, the Public Health Emergency Preparedness and Response.
This was Commander at Adams County Sheriff's Office.
Jeff McCarron, Adams County Health Department.
Dean Barenbaum, Adams County OEM.
Michael Bean, Adams County OEM.
Glenn Grove, Adams Jeffco Hazmat Authority.
Emily Madden, Aurora OEM.
Jeff Friesen, Colorado Preparedness and Response Network and the Department of Agriculture.
Shane Johnson, Colorado State Patrol Hazmat.
Ron Sigmund, Adams County OEM.
Ron Lutz, Brighton Fire. And there's really no way to do it online, is there?
If you can sign in the chat, for those of you online, we'll try and get a.
Here, Nick Sporer, Brendan Lance, Lenore, Jason Fratelli.
And 9
9
Alert. So 9 others.
The others. Daniel Rice. But a name we recognize? Yes. It's from Veolia. Okay.
It's from.
Yeah.
Those are invited but not on the call. Miss anybody? I think so. Okay, and is anybody else waiting to be let in?
All right, did everybody get a chance to read the minutes from the March meeting? So, got the motion to approve?
Is that you?
Oh, Bethany just walked in.
Yeah,
Stephanie made the motion.
absolutely, yes.
Stephanie made the motion to approve
The meeting, approve the minutes.
Yeah, please.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Chris. And the board members here. Do we have any board members on the virtual call?
We don't see any board members.
Once again, because it's virtual, anybody opposed to approving last meeting's minutes, please speak up. Hearing no objections, we're going to call that as approved. Legislative updates. Do we have anybody here? Katie, do you want to start from the county? Is there going on there?
Forgot my little sheet. I had a little sheet.
Just do it off your memory.
There was like probably 8 different bills, General Assembly passed that have something to do with some type of air quality or communications of emergency situations to disproportionately impacted communities. And now I don't know if any have actually been signed, but there was one in particular that updated the definition of disproportionately impacted communities. And so that will impact a lot of state agencies. And so there's a
Restrictive, less restricted? or-
well, there's just a requirement to consider the impacts of their regulations and policies and actions. It's kind of like NEPA they do their environmental assessment and environmental impact review. So it's kind of similar and to engage disproportionately impacted communities in the process. So there's specific. And CDPHE now has EnviroScreen, which developed, I think, over the process of many years and was fully implemented last year. And they're in the process, it'll continually iteratively be updated. So that EnviroScreen mapping can be used to identify socially impacted communities according to the new legislative definition. And the Air Quality Control Commission, I guess there's another one, Air Quality Control Commission, on Thursday, approved the adoption of amendments to Regulation 3 permitting requirements for source facilities, stationary source facilities located in disproportionately impacted communities. So there's some additional air dispersion modeling and air quality monitoring requirements for sources getting a construction permit or a new or modified construction permit or Title V operating permits. So there's requirements to identify and include in their application whether they're located in a disproportionately impacted community. And then if they're in what they call a cumulatively impacted community, meaning they're within the 85th percentile of the DIC, then they are required to do some additional air dispersion modeling for certain affected pollutants. And then based on what the modeling says, they may be required to do either source specific air monitoring or community monitoring. That community monitoring at this point is most likely to be implemented by CDPHE through permit fees that those facilities pay, as well as the air quality enterprise. And that was just, so that rulemaking hearing, that process started last year, and they just approved the division's proposal with some modifications and updates on Thursday afternoon.
Thank you. From our corporate, our corporate representative here, are you guys getting any pushback or anything on any of the stuff that disproportionately impacted communities? Yeah, I do. Go for it.
Yeah, I think there's some concern.
Because it seems like it's
Pushback.
yeah, I don't know that there's any room for pushback, but I can understand where it would be.
Yeah,
It's going to be hard to be in compliance all the time, I think.
yeah, there is some. I was on that webinar. I don't know if you jumped on that one. CDPH and EPA kind of teamed up.
Oh, that was so that's separate, that EPA, you talked about the MOU for compliance, environmental compliance and environmental enforcement.
Yeah, but then they
Within
talked a lot about
Commercially impacted communities, yeah.
those and the definitions and justice, and doesn't seem a lot of it's too clear yet.
Right.
They're trying to figure out those like which definition to use for the state.
Oh, no, that's been defined, that's been decided.
Is it?
And it was also just further modified to be more specific in House Bill 1233 this year. So, and it's expected that the governor will sign that because that is a result directly of the Environmental Justice Action Task Force's recommendations. And that task force came out of House Bill 21-1266, which is what established some of these requirements for addressing, all of the years of disparate environmental burdens that these certain communities have had to face because of their location or inability to advocate for themselves.
So Lisa, do you know, since CDPHE is doing all the regulatory side of things, do you anticipate that non-compliance or suspected non-compliance complaints will come through the local health department, through the LEPCs, or straight to CDPHE?
I mean, the public will always reach out to public health department and it'll go to environmental health. Most likely to a response and evaluate responses needed. CDPHE in the past probably year and a half has really taken a role on responding to complaints. when they come in there through that mechanism, through their spill reporting line. But then sometimes it does trickle down to us.
I didn't really see where the LEPC would be
I wouldn't think so.
conduit by which people would report that unless for some reason they feel like they're getting no positive results back from either local health department or state health department. In which case, I don't know exactly what to do. I guess we'll just.
I don't feel like there's much that the LEPC.
No.
can do,
Just information sharing and
you know?
community
Yeah,
back to know act and stuff, but
Yeah.
as far as a response or action entity, we're not that.
I think it's one of those things that as this unfolds and as it develops, it's probably one of the things we just need to make sure that our members are aware of what the proper reporting and.
And I think it can come into play when you have Title V versus who might exceed an EPCO threshold,
Mhm.
for quantity. I think that has come up from the community as far as who is responsible for letting the community know about that. Or how can they find out about it in a more readily transparent way? Most recent example is Suncor's sulfur dioxide releases. And it did exceed one of them supposedly did exceed the 24-hour threshold for sulfur dioxide. It's a little bit more nuanced in trying to explain to the community that it's not, it says there's a 24-hour limit. It's not an immediate, when you do see the spike, it may take that rolling average to determine.
Right.
And it has exceeded the EPCR limit. So I think there is concern in the community about real kind of immediate notification that something could be harmful. And CDPHE is working on that right now with their toxicology toxicology group. I think there is perhaps maybe some misinformation or misunderstanding that the LEPC or the Emergency Office of Emergency Management is responsible. That the local for sending out that notification.
That would be my concern is that there was
And that's a real concern. I've heard that.
yeah.
We'll have to figure out how we want to engage the community or how we want to address that concern as an LAPC or just.
I think the track is that AdCom 911 is would be the responsible party for sending out those kind of notifications. Simply because OEM and LEPC aren't 24/7.
Right.
You know, there's no way that we know if something happened on Saturday morning. Same message that.
Like an EPCR limit, that may not be like immediately.
When it goes outside the boundary, then they pick it up on their perimeter monitoring, which is what the House bill said, that whenever it exceeds that, they have to send out a code red. And AdCom would be the only, they send out the code red anyway. But monitor it, we don't straight code red. AdCom.
Does AdCom get their notifications directly or does it have to go through you?
They can get it directly.
So who is responsible and the facility is responsible or CDPHE lets them?
Facility is responsible for notifying. It's in their procedures. They have a call out list, if you will, that whenever. Well,
Is that for all like EPCR limits or is that just for the fence line monitoring program?
that's just for the fence line.
Yeah, so this is, I'm talking about,
Something.
so two is not part of that fence line monitoring program. That's just an EPCR limit.
So Suncor will send out press releases all the time. And speed. I don't know if there's a requirement to send out a code red. Or other than the perimeter drink. Well, if there's another kind of an incident, like a fire or something that goes on in.
A lot of misunderstanding as to what that threshold is.
Exactly,
And
exactly. And I think as an LEPC, we could maybe provide a benefit to the community and helping them navigate that or providing some that could be helpful.
Yeah, we can put out some information. We don't have access to the notification system. Though. It's not.
So that's important because I think the community and Adams County residents think that OEM does. I think that would be information and that's of course a reasonable misunderstanding, I would think.
We purposely do that just so that we don't have a Hawaii incident or a
confusing that.
Florida incident, any of those kind of incidents. The other issue too is that we're not 24/7. So if you have an incident go on, like I said, 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday,
Right, but this is all great information maybe to provide the community, because I think that they really don't understand.
Yeah, that's what I can see, Katie. I think I think we might be able to be a mechanism by which to filter out some of the clutter. It says, this is what you can expect. And this is the way the system is set up. If you have expectations beyond that, then these are the people you talk to. And I don't think
Yeah.
that's reasonable.
That's a good approach.
So some questions, both about notification and about, kind of what those limits are. Is local environmental health probably the first place to send them for more information that's not notification related? Or CDPHE or?
I think we have that line of communication right now, and that's something I know Dean and Katie and I and Brian and are kind of all gonna come together and try to figure something out here so we can have it streamlined.
You mean like
Yeah.
if there's like they notice something or.
Is it the limit, is it below limit? Does it just look funky?
And that's something we could even maybe work with the environmental justice ombudsman that was appointed by the governor that works with CDPHE, because now they have a complaint system. It can be online, you can call in, but that could be a channel to kind of triage those calls, or maybe, because I know like they could call my division, but we don't have a response. Like we don't have any jurisdiction over. So we, I mean, if it's a water thing, we call in Public Works, but even that would probably go back to the state.
For us, the emergency notification lines for EH and ER, those are two mechanisms too. But like Katie said, we don't have jurisdiction, so it's gonna go back up to CPG, which is where we should get it funneling down that way.
So outside of kind of
Plus through Suncor.
So some of the basic notification questions, as complicated as they are, I mean, we have the answers as to what, how that system works. But outside of that, you think the CPHE's ombudsman would be a good place for them to start to get the information?
He was very aggressive on that webinar about he wanted cases.
Oh, cool, okay.
And he
So
wanted,
whether it's a case or not, I mean, they can.
he wants to learn all that stuff, yeah. I think it's because he's.
Environmental justice.
And I think from the LEPC's perspective, I think that's one of the things we can do is try and streamline or clarify some of what the process looks like it's going to be. I have two concerns. One is unfunded mandates that come from the federal government, state government, whatever. So it's like you have to do this, but there's no money or no prospects on how to comply. And the other is the perception of this bureaucratic maze that, someone does try and call, well, you got to talk to this guy, and then you got to talk to this guy, and you got to talk to this office, you got to talk to that. And after a while, they just get frustrated and go, it's just a giant government cover up is where it ends up being. And that's what we want to try and avoid, I think. And as Ron says, we're not advocates, but I think we are a mechanism by which we could ensure some transparency, and hopefully being in the business that we're all in can foresee some of the pitfalls and minefields that maybe we can help people maneuver through. Thanks, Katie. Was there something else, Ron, that you were?
I just sent Mike, Lori Hodge just sent out a bunch of legislative updates that impacted outside the realm of LEPC, but there was just a lot of updates. And so I sent that to Mike. So there's a lot of things going through the House and State House. Bills that have been approved, a lot of fire management type stuff and different things that impact OEM, not necessarily LEPC. But if you don't get that email, that those legislative updates from Lori, then you might want to ask. It comes through the SEMA website. So if you're not on SEMA or don't have access, then sign up for that.
Can you skip the information without being a member? Is that a member's secret?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I can forward the information.
I was gonna say I bore them, but I don't.
It's gotta be public information because it's bills.
But just the way that they put it together, I think in that context, I feel like is pretty digestible. as opposed to, just looking them up on my own. But I don't know that you can go in as a non-member and sign up for those yourself.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, even when Lori is forwarding is the email from CCI in the Colorado counties.
So that's probably where,
She's herself just forwarding something else.
we can probably have to get it then, yeah.
Good deal. Anybody online have any questions? All right, moving down the road here then. Adams County representatives.
So just real quick, we talked about it, again, not within the realm necessarily of LEPC, but there was a ransomware attack, a week ago, I guess now. AdCom 911, we've been talking about them quite a bit, suffered a ransomware attack, 2:30 in the morning on a Friday. That impacted their ability to use CAD, the computer aided dispatch system. It also shut down their phone system. Some of that was done internally out of abundance of caution. Once they found out that there was a ransomware attack, they started shutting down systems so it wouldn't infect or impact any more damage to their system. Adams County was involved, so our IT department got involved in that really early on. The sheriff's office was also involved. There was another system that they found some issues with that impacted detention, and our IT guys and sheriff's IT guys were able to jump on that. Again, abundance of caution. They shut things down temporarily just so they could make sure they had a fix on it. I think they were up and running by 2:00 in the afternoon, 2:30-ish in the afternoon. So they'd gone through, they'd scoured all their servers and systems and whatever IT people do to make sure that it's not going to be a problem, and located the issues, and they were back online pretty quickly. AdCom was back online later on that day, once they got all the players involved, but it did cause some consternation, at least initially, early in the system, because again, it impacts the CAD system. It's not just Adams County Sheriff's Office that's on that, but there's a lot of other agencies that are on that in Adams County that are dispatched through AdCom 911. So Brighton, Commerce City, Fed Heights, Northglenn are all dispatched to that same system. A lot of the jurisdictions also have links to AdCom, like Thornton. Those links were cut, at least temporarily, until they figured out what the problem was, because they didn't want anything being transferred from AdCom to, say, Thornton Dispatch and then get in that system. So they did a really good job. I thought our IT department was up and running really quickly, cooperating with the SO, the district attorney's IT. They were all working together to get that resolved. And they did a great job of being back up and running, I think, fairly reasonable amount of time. You hear horror stories from other agencies, Wheat Ridge and some other places that had been impacted by ransomware attacks where they were down for literally months at a time. Fortunately, we have pretty good resources here in Adams County, fairly robust IT departments in Adams County, whereas some of those other agencies didn't. It's an emergency manager and 2 IT people. That's their whole response unit. Just overwhelmed their entire county in one case where they were down for 5 months. Everything, records management, payroll, you name it, that had to do with IT. So we were very fortunate in that. I would just put a reminder out. This is real. This is happening every day, pretty much. Be vigilant, be cognizant of what's going on in the IT world, and build up your response plan. If you don't have one, get one. Have a response plan. Know who your contacts are when you have an issue. Know what your organizational structure is going to look like, so that when it does come, and I'm going to say it will come eventually to your agency, that you can respond and reach out to your partners. I haven't already done that.
Do you have any idea if they're working on or plan to put together any type of an after action report? I
don't know if they are or not. I would assume that they probably are at least looking at it from an IT level. And I can check with Brandon. Brandon Archer's our cybersecurity guy to see what they're doing.
I mean, even if I don't understand a word of it, it'd be great if, our
I know he's very heavily involved. in it.
Okay.
He's, early on, I was also, involved because it did impact Brighton. And I believe they did talk about it, but they want to settle, they're still
Sure.
not 100% yet,
All the lessons have not been learned yet.
that those links between the different dispatch agencies. I've been on vacation for the last week, so I know they're still working on it, getting those up and having the confidence level that everything is clean before they turn them all back on. So,
Be great for those lessons learned to be shared with, Gary and with our city folks too, so.
The unique element of
Different
this,
mistakes and just not the same ones.
yeah, the unique element on this is AdCom 911 is not part of Adams County government. I mean, they're a separate entity. So they're a little more reluctant to share, proprietary information and some of that kind of stuff with the county. They want to try and get all their ducks in a row before they kind of share that out. So, that's a little bit of an issue as far as communication lines and those kind of things. But, hopefully the lessons learned. I mean, there were some lessons learned. Share those out.
Well, it's, we're being told it's still gonna be a few months before we're up and running from their end. So everything's being dispatched. It's like we did in the old days. Everything's over the air. We have no car computer system.
Oh,
I know CAD is up. I don't know why they're
They
not.
don't have any of the cars.
Again,
And that's all of the metro agents or all the AdCom agencies. So nobody's got a
is that a community? I wonder if that's a communication thing or
I wonder if that's where their vulnerability is, that
I talked to Jackie Reynolds the other day. She goes, our CAD system's up, we're up and running. I'm getting text messages and pages and things on CAD. I haven't tried to pull it up in my office yet, but maybe I'll go back and see. And if it's not, I'll make a phone call to Jackie and say, are we up or share that information with you?
weeks, if not months, before we have stuff in the car again.
there was a kind of a sidebar. There was an interesting article on 60 Minutes last night, news TV article on 60 Minutes. It was talking about this very same thing. And it's going to be one step further now. What they showed was they had one of the friendly hacker people come in, and they actually used artificial intelligence to copy the woman's voice, and they cloned her phone, or at least to where it would come through on the person receiving the phone as this person. And they asked her for her passport number. And of course, her admin assistant said, yeah, I got it, just a second. And gave it right back to them because it's her phone and her voice. Never thought to question it, but yet it was a hack. So she had this phrase that I thought was really interesting. I picked up. It's called polite paranoia. So it's one of those things that the way to respond is if someone's asking you for sensitive information, it's like, let me get it and I'll call you back. And then you initiate the call back to their phone, so that if it is a hacker, then you've taken them out of the loop essentially. But I thought that was kind of interesting that now with the AI, they can make it look like somebody else's phone. They can make it look like somebody else's voice. They can sound like somebody else's voice. They can make it look like somebody else's picture. They can do all these other things. And I don't anticipate AI being not misused. Yeah, the things that people aren't gonna misuse it. It's kind of a naive approach. Anyway. Lisa, anything in health department?
I really don't have anything.
Okay. Officially, COVID ended, yay.
It did, but now we're waiting to see what happens with the funding, with the debt ceiling talks, so. Cause we have some things in the works with our ELC 2.5 funding and they pull that back.
Yeah. Wait and see in the shenanigan game. Local agencies, I don't want to start, right?
Well, we got through the AdCom issue. Our CAD is up and running, but not the CAD to CAD to the different dispatch agencies. So AdCom was pretty quick to go get it up back and working, so at least we could call. As far as disrupting our service, luckily there was no disruptions. I think simply because of the time it hit. When it was identified in the middle of the night, and then they were able to put a plan in place of manually dispatching apparatus to pay, based on location. Right, it's continuing to grow. We've got 12 people in the academy, looking to staff up medic units for personnel. Busy.
Good deal. Stephanie, anything on the OEM side?
Nothing for this group, I don't think.
Chris, Sheriff's Office, besides the cat thing? Nothing else going on? What else? How's your new captain? Working out?
He's good.
Good, good, enthusiastic?
Oh, yes, he is.
I haven't met him yet.
Not yet.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, he's busy, especially being a new captain.
Yeah.
And he actually went through ops and tech and everything, so he's actually gonna be tech certified.
This last tech class you had,
Yeah.
Camp West?
The one, actually, he just finished up the one we had last week, the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So he finished up with that one. I think they take their tests.
Good deal. You're gonna make them feel, so you have to do it over you. You can do that, That can be arranged. All right, any other local agencies out there? I saw Greg, anything going on in Westminster?
I want to say thank you to those of you who gave me some feedback on the hazardous material annex that I was developing. One of you gave me a comment that I need to get back with you on just to get a little bit more information. And I am going to add a section in there on radiological hazards. We have a few sources and also natural gas pipelines. But thanks for your input and your information and your input.
Good deal. Who am I missing? Any other local agencies out there? And
Good morning, everybody. This is Nick with Denver Water. How y'all doing?
good, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update. We have 2 exercises coming up here. We've got a tabletop exercise on June 7th at the recycle plant here in Adams County. And we also have a wildfire functional exercise on the 28th, and that's going to be taking place in the Strontia Springs area. So out in Douglas and Jeffco, while it's not in your jurisdiction, if anyone is interested in being a controller or evaluator, feel free to reach out to myself and let me know. We're looking for 1 or 2 more to help us with that. So with that said, that's what I've got.
Are they gonna flood Strontia Springs with burnt out trees again like they did during Buffalo Creek?
We might be, no spoilers. There might be a wildfire.
Yeah, that was a mess down there. I was there for that, and that was a mess. It's kind of interesting. All right, Brian, did you want to from Veolia? Do you have anything? No? Who am I missing?
Sorry, no updates for me.
Okay. Anything on your side?
From the state or from oil and gas?
Either way.
From the state, we have to do, USDA told me a couple weeks ago, we have to do a radiation response plan for animals and crops. So we'll put that in our hazmat annex as well. And then-
Fukushima?
Yeah. How do you decon cows and horses?
Our local healthcare coalition is doing a radiation response. I think it's for humans. They're doing an exercise, in a couple of weeks. Might be of interest to tag on to that and do some stuff.
Yeah, I went to the Volunteer Medical Response Corps meeting, CDPHE last weekend. Yeah, a week ago. And they have a whole radiation volunteer section.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Oh, yeah, very interesting folks, like folks out of the military that were pilots that carried nukes and people that worked at power plants and a lot of professors from academia that dealt with experiments in radiation. So I learned a ton from them. I know that they're a resource that we need to.
We've got a working group for that to help what Steph's talking about as far as developing a framework. Basically, Michelle Beelan's working on it from her end, and that might be something you might talk to Corey about jumping on as part of that. Just have another section to talk about agriculture and how that would be impacted by radiological.
Corey with DHSN.
We'll start.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, because it would make sense to have both of us.
exercise is June 2nd.
Yeah, I thought it was coming. It's here too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Or, well, it's soon and close, yeah. But it would make sense that both plans would
Yeah,
complement each other as opposed to being.
Yeah, I talked to,
competing.
yeah, I was talking to some Henry at CDPHE who has that piece of it. Trying to get on the same page, so. Since his agency has the people part, I'll have the thousands horses part.
the critters.
Yeah, big critters, large animals. On the oil and gas side, so the CPRN, we don't get involved in any politics. It is truly a nonprofit to bring first responders and the industry folks together to do exercises, training, that kind of stuff, and just make sure there's good community safety, good communication. Preach that whole unified community. So when you're asking about the environmental justice piece, you know, I hesitate to say too much because, yeah, I mean, I think it's a concern, but we're not gonna get, we're just gonna stay at that unified community level.
Okay.
How we're gonna respond and keep everybody safe, and then, you know, the end game is to keep the community safer.
Yeah, all I'm looking for sometimes when I ask is it's like that, oh yeah, they told us we're gonna do this, but nobody knows how, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's kind of learning as they go. And most industry is very good at adapting to change, not necessarily happily. But
Yeah, and not necessarily quickly, but it does come around.
so June 1st, the CPRN, we're sponsoring a bunch of fire foam testing, so non-PFAS foam testing, and one of the encapsulator agents that's pretty common, the F500. So two of the oil and gas companies and two of the fire districts are joining forces on that. And then we'll put that all on our YouTube channel and on our webpage so everybody can see what that might look like. June 16th is our next stakeholder meeting. June 19th, we're continuing to do the critical infrastructure protection meeting. So we're bringing the security professionals from oil and gas and our law enforcement friends. Carl represents Adams County Sheriff in that meeting. And let's see. Those are kind of the big ones right now. We plan on having an ICS workshop and in the morning for all oil and gas industry folks, and then a tabletop exercise in the afternoon in Will County. We're just starting to plan that out for maybe summer, fall. So that should be interesting. It's always good to get industry folks and the first responders in the same room. We had those two exercises last year where we did fire, one here and one in, well, went over pretty well. And then I think in the winter, we're gonna do a regional tabletop flooding, where we're gonna get a production site or one of these hub facilities that sits on the border of Adams and Will County and flood it out. Let's talk about the response to
With
that.
some tanks.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, during the 2013 floods, at least in Will County, we saw a lot of things floating down the river that probably shouldn't be floating down the
That you
river.
would never think of. And
Yeah, entire tank batteries, yeah, different.
There's now a new requirement, right? So GCC, that everything has to be anchored.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of new rules, I think, because of the floods, but yeah, that was disconcerting watching those things float. And then the streets that turned into rivers, so it wasn't necessarily the South Platte.
Right.
Or the Hoover River, but streets were entire rivers with equipment floating through neighborhoods. So we're gonna address that. That was something that came out of our after action from the fire tabletop was, hey, let's do a flood and really talk about what that was.
Have you thought about inviting the floodplain managers? County Milk,
No, we just kind of started talking.
and since they're the ones who issue the flood permits, use permits.
Yeah, I know a lot of them go to those trainings at EMI too. Yeah. If you have a list of them, I'm happy to take it.
Even I'm just thinking, like, even the ones from the city are not engaged in floodplain management. It's kind of one of those other duties as assigned, and I got stuck with this. So it'd be great for them to be able to give them an opportunity to learn that role a little bit better rather than just updating their information manually.
Well, definitely.
Well, they benefit a lot.
Use like I always do, and all the emergency management folks, I think you're on there, so feel free to spread the word. Get
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, if it's a step to get them better prepared as well, or something they can work in the plan, or maybe they can fill a role in their response to. Oh, and the job aid. So the job aid's done. We do that oil and gas 101 class for all the fire districts, for our class on upstream, midstream, all safety. So now the job aid that goes with that class is finished. We're delivering it to pretty much 50 different fire districts. Hazmat's welcome if they want to. And I do have it in a PDF version as well. So if you want to put it on a training site, things like that. Also, our one-on-one class, I think it's the very last day of the month. We're actually going to videotape our class.
That'd be
It
great.
will be available. Aurora specifically asked for it because they have 17 stations and they could just send people to the 4-hour class. They wanted to have it on their training platforms. So that's kind of involving too. But, feel free to take these and we'll make more. And I think Roy is trying to find, at Will County, LEPC is trying to find some funding to make even more.
Oh, Roy will find money. He has a way of finding money.
I'm gonna jump in because there's a chat message from Jason Petrilli from 811. Said that he could fill us in, but I think he has to jump off because he's at the meeting. He's the man.
Yes,
Absolutely.
can you guys hear me?
Oh,
Yes.
I thought you were.
All right, so I'm Jay Petrilli. I'm your damage prevention liaison for Colorado 811. I cover all the Northeast, so if I haven't met any of you guys, it's nice to speak with you virtually. I did prepare some just some basic stats for Adams County just in the month of April. So I did kind of the basic stats for this year in April, and then comparing it to what we saw in last year in April, the same month. So last month in Adams County, we had around 10,300 total tickets, which is up around 1,400 from last year in the month of April. So that trend is pretty consistent, I would say, with most counties in Colorado. The ticket volume has been going up, 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 up. And that is good, obviously, because we want everybody to be contacting us before they do their excavations so that none of the underground infrastructure gets damaged. And then obviously safety as well, right? We want people going home at night. So last year in April, we had right around 9,000 total tickets. So we're up 1,400 total tickets in Adams County for April. And then excavator re-notifications, for those of you guys that don't know what that is, that essentially means when we send out a notification, every utility owner that's in that dig area that we notify, if they don't respond within the 2 business days after the call or the notification is sent out, they will, the excavator puts in a re-notification to get them back out there if they don't complete the locate or post a positive response, or the excavator does not agree with what they posted. So last month we had right around 1,000 total re-notifications in Adams County. And last year in April, we had around 570. So that is up almost 500 total notifications. So there is some good and bad with that. We are seeing this trend with Colorado 811 across the state is re-notifications really, really increasing. I do this for Weld County as well, and that number was pretty significant, that change as well. So what's positive about this is that excavators are not just, they're educated, so they know what they need to do to get those utility owners back out there. So they're basically just more educated and not just accepting, no marks or anything like that. They know what they need to be doing. So in that regard, it is good that that number has gone up, but obviously from just a standpoint of getting locates done on time, that is not good. And you are seeing that across the board as well as late positive response, just in general from a lot of utility owners with this ticket volume. It's crazy right now. A lot of excavators aren't getting their locates in time. So that's why you're seeing this re-notification increase across the state right now. For damages, we're actually down 23 damages, reported damages. So we had right around 67 damage notifications in Adams County last month. And then in 2022, there was 90. So we're down 23 for that. That is good. I don't necessarily love damage stats because if you reveal a utility and don't even damage it, you just reveal a line that wasn't marked, that would count as a damage. Or if you expose an abandoned line that is not operable, so you see that a lot of time with telephone, things like that, that's reported as a damage. So that stat's not my favorite, but we are down about 20 for that. And since this meeting in particular is very emergency focused, I did want to provide that stat as well. So last month, we had 291 total emergencies called in Adams County. And then in 2022, there was almost 400. So we're down right around 80 emergencies as far as what people called in Adams County. And just some basic Colorado 811 updates in general. We do have a new executive director who just started today. Her name's Claudia Randall. She has a lot of experience in nonprofit. She has over 15 years in the nonprofit sector. I have not met her yet, but she seems like a real straight shooter. So looking forward to meeting her. As far as damage prevention goes, so my department, we do have a new director of damage prevention. For those of you that know Todd Griffith, he operates out of the Southeast. He was my teammate before, and he was promoted to this position. So for those of you guys that know him, he's pretty well known in all of Colorado, I would say. He's kind of the perfect man for the job. Other than that, I'm going to be leaving my my contact information in the chat before I head out. Anyone, please feel free to reach out to me if you guys have any events that you think 811 would be a good fit for. Please shoot me a call, shoot me an email. I also have 811 banners that I'd be happy to distribute to you guys, as well as excavator handbooks and procedure guides that just are more literature for the process of 811. I'd be happy to hand those out as well. So like I said, I'll be putting my information in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me, and I will open up to any questions.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for the report. Hey, for clarification real quick, when you say ticket, you don't mean like a summons ticket, you mean a ticket for service, correct?
Yeah, so a dig ticket. So anyone that calls 811 or goes online to submit a dig ticket.
And then my other real quick question was on the re-notification calls. Is there anything that is punitive for the people who don't respond to those? I mean, do they?
So yeah, there's nothing punitive about it. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how it goes right now. A lot of utility owners, and you're seeing it a lot with the contract locators. I'm not going to call them out, but essentially what that means is companies that locate for, Comcast or for CenturyLink, they're locating multiple utilities and they are swamped. They're very behind. So what I will say is there is a way to call them out and pursue punitive measures, and that's through the Safety Commission, so the Underground Damage Safety Commission. So if you guys want more information on that, I'd be happy to provide it. Just shoot me an email or a call or anything like that. But they would ultimately be where you'd go if you want to pursue, a fine or something of that nature.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was some consequence for the people who didn't call back on the re-notification.
No, so kind of the way 811 works is if they are late on a ticket, so say the due date was 5/21, every day following that due date, they get charged $1.30. So I guess just monetarily alone, there is some, it could add up on you, but in general, there's really nothing punitive other than just the extra charges that you will accrue.
Yeah, Jason, I have a quick question. This could be with Adams County. Do you track when you get those emergency notifications when an excavator exposes a pipeline or some type of line that they weren't expecting? Track like what types of lines those are? I know we have, like, especially in Adams County, we have hundreds of unlocated flow lines. And just wondering if there's a way to track the type of line or able to kind of aggregate that data.
So you're wondering if you expose a line that wasn't marked, what's the process? Is that kind of what I gathered from that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this can happen with abandoned in particular. So in that situation, when you expose a line that wasn't marked, you want to submit a damage notification. It wouldn't be an
Oh,
emergency.
damage. Okay.
Yeah, so an emergency is strictly to prevent the loss of life, damage to property. Damage requests would ultimately, you didn't hit the line, right? You just exposed it. And even if you did hit it and it wasn't marked, it would still be a damage request. So you'd essentially just get utility owners out there to either claim the line or explain to you why it wasn't marked, things of that nature. So you would just put in a damage request, get the utility owners back out there, and somebody would claim it. And it wouldn't ultimately be on you because it was not marked.
But if nobody claims it,
Yes, this does happen. When nobody claims it, it is in, I will always advise to take as many pictures as possible, save all your documentation. This does happen, especially with Orange, so communications, so telecom, things of that nature. So in that situation, take your pictures, document everything. And then from there on, maybe you reach out to a Comcast or CenturyLink. But this does happen, unfortunately. There's not really a clear-cut way to go about that. So I will just say cover your butt, take pictures, and document everything.
Thanks, Jason. Anybody else have any questions?
I have one. Hey, Jason, this is Ron with Adams County. You said there were about 400 emergencies in Adams County last year, and you find that as potential loss of life or damage to property. Can you give me an example of what that would be? I'm assuming it's a busted pipeline or a gas line or something, but can you kind of illustrate that a little bit better for us so you know it classifies as an emergency?
So an emergency would be, let's say you have a gas leak, or a water main breaks, things like that. There's even situations in rural settings where a fence breaks and you have cows that escape the pasture. That would also be an emergency because you need to fix that fence immediately. So it's those situations that you need marks immediately. And with emergencies during business hours, so that would be up until 5 o'clock. So I think it's 7 a.m. to 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. The response time for those utility owners are 1 hour. Now, if you're outside of those business hours, so outside of 5 o'clock, 2 hours is what you're going to be waiting for those marks. So emergencies are when you need your marks right now. A water main breaks, you have a gas leak, you have an emergency situation like that where you're preventing the loss of life or damage to property.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Jason. Anybody else?
And like I said, guys, my contact information is there. Feel free to reach out to me with any other questions that you guys might have that pop up. If you have any events, I'm always happy to join those. And like I said, I do have banners and some 811 material that I'd be happy to provide you guys as well.
Okay. I think no further questions. Jason, have fun at your other meeting now that you're late.
Oh yeah, fun.
We made you late. Blame it on us.
Oh, that's all right. Happy Monday, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
All right. Before I move down much further, Chief Les, I just want to make sure you know, I don't know whether you have it on your calendar, June 6th. There should have been an electronic invite come out from North Metro. They're having our board of directors, my board of directors, the Adams Jeffco Hazmat Authority is having a meeting to discuss future directions of the Adams Jeffco Hazmat Authority. June 6th, 1 o'clock, North Metro headquarters. And it's supposed to be an invitation to anybody who has a vested interest in what the future of the hazmat authority will look like, as far as direction and expectations, all kinds of stuff. So, all right, thank you. Where am I at? Chemical facilities. I think I asked anybody here from the state online? The federal partners, EPA, PIMSOC.
I have an update from EPA. She sent in, this is from Bree Boxstaller, who sent in because she wasn't able to make the meeting this morning. She said, may jump on later if she's able. So EPA attended the NESTPO Conference, which is the
National
National
Association
Association
of
of Tier
Two.
Two something organization.
Yeah.
Um, for presentations from the April conference. There are, sorry, I'm just reading this, so it'll be a little. There are many great presentations that our group may find useful. There's no movement on upcoming EPA regulations at the moment. CWA HSWCD rule is undergoing management review for the final version, with the final rule due by September 2024. The RMP revision is still under review. Our group will be continuing to work with LEPCs in terms of planning work with the industry in their respective locales. EPA Region 8 is working on finalizing training options for responders within our region. For example, we hope to include air monitoring classes, mercury spill training, oil spill boom training. And when we finalize our training menu, I will pass that on, share with our LEPC partners.
Fantastic. Sounds like good opportunities there. Bree's real good about getting in touch with us, so that's something.
Pass on anything I get from her.
Local community groups, citizen groups, organizations. There been any change in the lithium battery plant thing? And that's on the neighborhood's got.
Yeah, I know they're still moving forward. So interesting. Our planning department is working on their site plan development documents. So they wanted to add emergency protections there, which is super weird. Like, never done that before, and it's not really an appropriate place for an emergency plan. But just because, I mean, I don't want to say no. It's like, sure, we want to go emphasize emergency stuff. So we did I did draft just a couple of short paragraphs in their draft site plan development, again, through the city that just kind of mirrors some of the EPCRA and the EPA requirements. So again, just the requirement for the emergency plan and the information sharing, all that fun stuff. So we were working on that a couple weeks ago. I'm not really sure where that's going to go, if that's actually going to end up staying in there. That's kind of where the city is with that.
I'm assuming that the city and the fire department are in lockstep. Are they gonna wait?
Yeah, I talked
You guys do your part first, and then they do their part second, and it seems like in this particular case, being what it is,
yeah.
it seems like there ought to be a lot of.
I think our fire marshal's very heavily involved. She very heavily involved in the lithium battery technology that's coming up. And so he's been in contact with the
And my understanding is there's already a similar plant owned by the same company in Thornton, just on a smaller scale.
so yes.
So I'm sure there's some stuff there that they can pass along and be, oh, by the way.
Mhm.
Yes.
So we're working on that, and Elizabeth's had a chance to look at some of that language, and I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing for that to be in the site plan. It's just kind of weird. Okay, so that's kind of what we were working on last week.
Is it because they want? As far as EPS.
It's much more, I think it's the city working on something they've never really worked on before. And they're like, oh, that seems like a good idea. And they're like, you should maybe, suggest some neighborhood evacuation plans and put that. I was like, that is not part of a site plan. Yeah, but rather than saying no, I'm like, I could, re-emphasize, some of the EPCRA and the EPA requirements. And, we could start with mentioning them there. And then as they build out the emergency plan and some of those more robust documents, since we've mentioned it in the city site plan, we can work together with that. So kind of my thought ish. So we'll see where that goes.
Pick the bolder approach, which is unauthorized fires prohibited, uncontrolled fires prohibited.
Emergency is not
Fires
allowed.
prohibited.
Emergency is only allowed Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Yeah.
You remember Larry, don't you? Larry? Oh, you don't. It's like,
Larry.
I can't remember.
A lot of Larry's.
Manager.
Yeah.
It's like Ray
Richard.
stops at the line. Like, it doesn't- You don't have to have that. All right, I digress. Anybody else got any reports? Anybody online? Okay, so you ready to, I didn't see what you did. You ready to do the spill reporting?
Let me just share the screen to everybody, or else I can just read it out.
The bottom one.
It's out of the way as I read them. It's in my head. And I didn't print out a copy, so it's hard for me to read from this distance. I have to walk up there and read this a little bit, just to get that going. I don't know if anybody else has better vision. So in April, so these are all since the last report, since March, the end of March. So the 2nd of April, Commerce City, there was an SO2 release. I left the company names off or names, but everybody knows where we're getting SO2 releases these days. Sorry if I'm.
Oh, no, you're fine, you're fine.
Then on the 5th of April, 900 to 1,800 gallons of potable water released to the South Platte River due to equipment failure, leaking valve. That release was stopped. Our city, we had a report of a sheen on Westerly Creek, and that was under investigation. Anybody?
Yeah, my coworker responded to that and worked heavily with the Aurora water people and yeah, I'm not sure the conclusion of that one, but yeah, it was handled. Specifics.
Another SO2 release on the 12th, and there were notifications about that. So, they've got that aired. This is kind of an interesting thing, on 13th in Commerce City, out on Burlington Creek, there was a caller that was fishing, observed a orange material on the side of the, and actually I can kind of show you the picture that came with that. The reason this is interesting is because this wasn't hazmat, but for the casual observer, it looked like. So there's a rust colored kind of goopy thing that's leaking into the river on there that he was fishing at. So it's a bacteria that fixes iron in the water, gets that red rust colored. And so it's a normal, it's not hazardous, but it does look like some kind of nasty chemical.
We've also gotten a lot of reports.
Oh, yeah.
Time of year on the South Platte that's right on the other side of that little reservoir right there, north of the 270 crossing across the South Platte. On the east side, there's also that same algal bloom. So we've gotten some reports of that.
It's pretty common, and it's nationwide. It's so always good though that somebody's reported in rather than think suspicious. So then 29th of April, we had another SO2 release. Both of those I noticed, it's 501 pounds. So I think that once they see the exceedance over 500 pounds, they call it in just to be safe. Although I don't know, is 501 the limit, or does that mean that we're 600 pounds? So it would be interesting to get some clarification from PHE or fire. We had a diesel spill from returned equipment. It wasn't a big deal. Somebody returned some equipment as they were cleaning out the fuel tank. They opened They opened it up and diesel came pouring out so that it wasn't returned empty. They closed it back up real quick, cleaned up what spilled in the immediate area. There was no release to water bodies or slower, so it's all good. In Thornton, we had an unknown amount of gasoline released into Clear Creek. Do we have any other?
Yeah, I was heavily involved in that investigation at the health department. So what happened was, Thornton routinely monitors Clear Creek because they have an intake just 3/4 of a mile east of Pecos. So they found a sheen on the river on the 2nd. They reported to the state. State had a free bar and didn't report it to us until at least 24 hours later. So I went out the next afternoon, the 3rd, and the water, they'd gotten rain in the hills that night, and the water level had raised a lot. So the sheen was completely, there was absolutely no sign of it whatsoever. So as a result, we sort of backtracked up the river and realized that there's that Martin there, we got a asphalt plant right there that was. So we coordinated with the state and actually called in an early stormwater discharge inspection at Martin Marietta. So I got to go on that, and it's really interesting. Bottom line, there's no possible. There's no, so sorry, so we need to allow operation. They go on the same discharge plan. So I don't know that will bother me for 6 hours. I didn't see any evidence whatsoever. They seem like the most likely culprit that gave us industrial use. But Thornton tested the water, it did not come back for details. So we don't think it was a petroleum spill, or that's what they said. It's more likely that Parks Wildlife did have a little bit of fish die off during spring things like that. Not that mistake. Spring. So we couldn't find any source. We did respond. We learned a valuable lesson. And they actually have funding for still cleaning waterways. They were not good, so.
Thank you. Detail on that. All right, we're getting down there. Northland, there was a sewage spill. 450 gallons. From the storm inlet to Niagara Creek. City of Thornton cleared the line out of a manhole in the street. So that's all been. And I don't know if Hazmat from State Patrol got called on this at all, Mike. On I-76 eastbound at mile marker 8, there were 300 gallons of human waste discovered by CDOT on the highway. So probable source for that, I would imagine, might be an RV that dumped their egg, something like that.
On that, I think the carrier was still on for that. That's why the cleanup contractor was out there. I'm not for sure. I wasn't there, but that's what I heard.
Right. Yeah, we get so little detail from these, so appreciate it. What do you think was the source then?
I think it was actual, like a sewage tanker.
Oh,
And it lost its load.
okay. Okay, well, let's get stopped and.
Yeah, 300 gallons in an RV would be like.
That's pretty big.
A lot.
It's a rich family.
That's true.
Been carrying it for a while.
I know sometimes they do that though. I've seen a couple times. I don't know if this was. Forgetting. I've seen that waste hose kind of dragging in behind an RV and kind of dribbling a little bit, so. So then, so May 11th?
Yep.
Car City floodwater at Suncor, so back when we were getting all the rain. They did have an exceedance of their stormwater discharge permit. Everything's under control and lab results confirm that water permit limitations were not exceeded as far as.
And the way I read that, it was just a volume issue. Is that what you?
Yeah, it just overflowed it,
Yeah,
filled up something, an open tank or something.
one of their
Now,
catch basins or something overflowed and into another one which overflowed and, yeah.
do have any other?
No, we get notifications about these events at Suncor from CDPHE. They don't ask us to respond. It's hard for us to respond. I've done it because you have to go through all the safety and security stuff. It takes hours to get. You gotta go through the whole class and reading, orientation and stuff. You can't just, check in and it's like, a lot of times it's still halfway. So I think CDPHE has a more streamlined response. So they've been responding for those. We hear about them. And plus they've got a good system. It's the generally to who skills and so forth. Not usually what's, it's 6 season rate, so. Just go through the rate.
I didn't realize it was that.
Yeah, a lot of that, that's required reporting. But its permit values are being exceeded, which I think is perceived as a chronic problem rather than an acute problem. So, I mean, there's no immediate threat, but over a period of years that this is the things that they look at as part of the permitting process. All right, do we have any committee reports? Any upcoming tours and meetings? You know?
No, but it's a good time to ask for anybody that's on the line or in the room, if you want to host a LEPC meeting at your facility or in your community. We'd love to get some field trips in. We do a site tour as well if you have a facility to show off. Sure, appreciate that. Just an open request. Site tours, think about it. You don't have to say anything now. But we'd love to do that.
All right, anybody else online have any questions? Brian, was that a question from you, Katie?
Oh, yeah.
Also waste event center facility?
Yeah, so we host that in the city of Thornton, that event for our residents, so they can.
Are there dates posted yet or anything?
Hmm?
Are there any dates posted?
Yeah, it'll be in July. It's on both Adams County's website and City of Thornton.
Okay.
This year it's Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. July 22nd, 26th, and 29th.
22, 26, 29. Okay. At Veolia.
At Veolia in Henderson, yep. Basically, City of Thornton County, we cover the. And most of the per pound. A good opportunity.
Good deal. Well, yeah, I'm sure that the word gets out because those are really needed to have. Business. We have anything? New business? Do you want to talk about the Adams County outreach, that proposal for the? I know you guys are looking for somebody to sit at a table or something.
Yeah, we've had a couple of people interested, so I just thought I'd put it on the agenda to kind of make a more formal proposal to establish a committee to reach out within the communities in Adams County and do the EPCRA thing, public right to know, provide them information about hazards in the community. I know especially around a number of groups have formed around Suncor, one concern there in those neighborhoods. And so we are starting to reach out, at least gather information on groups. Thought it might be something, an idea to have a committee, subcommittee of the LEPC.
Now, would they be the same ones that are working on like the flyer, the brochure? That's.
So yeah, I'll give you an update on that too. So in that context, I took a look at the brochure that we have, and it's a bit out of date. And it has some pretty scary people in hazmat suits on there, which is fine. I mean, that's what responders do. But I looked into updating and the cost of brochures, even though we don't have any budget. One of the suggestions that on it is that we instead produce a large poster that we can bring out to public events that would have a QR code that would link to a page on the LEPC website, which I'm also working on updates for. So we have a new website page, including a link for public information, things like what does shelter in place mean? What would happen if we got a call for evacuation due to a hazmat issue? So putting an additional page on for what should I do kind of things, and then where can I find other information? EPA puts a lot of information out on facilities, so we don't have to open Cameo records and things like that on facilities. People can just find out the location on a map, what's near them. RMP facilities, that's something that's public on EPA sites, so we can put a link to those without any difficulty. So as people are drawn from the poster that we take out, other than handing out a bunch of brochures, which probably half of them are at best or in the trash, have this QR code and the website address as well. People that are QR savvy, and have them go to a page that would give a lot more information than what we have on our current site, which is kind of dual in nature because a lot of it is for facilities to report how you get your information, reporting into the state and all that. So we have links for that, and actually maybe we will pull up kind of a mock page.
The idea is that we're gonna print, we'll have a number of these posters made, so it's not just Adams County, but we'll give them out to our partners, municipal partners and partners around the county. So they can, if they have an event, they can display it at the event. They can put it in their office building, whatever they want to do. That'll provide that information. We just think it's a better use of our money than printing thousands and thousands of brochures. So it's gonna end up in landfill somewhere, creating more.
Right in the middle.
I think it's a great idea. Have them by contact or through the website.
Yeah, items, there's another one that's I think it's a PDF.
There's LEPC brochure.
No.
I can.
Maybe I got jumbled around. Up there.
Well, I just don't think you can see the full names of files on there.
No, but I'll know it.
There's a PDF that says web pages.
There's also Adams County LE on the very bottom PDF, bottom left-hand corner.
I think maybe web pages. Just from back here, that's big enough for me to read.
Try one now.
Yes, okay, so we're sharing that. So this is a mock-up of what the page might look like. A little more explanation at the top of the page. How to get more information. And then these little boxes would be something you could click on for tier 2 reporting, how to find out more about LEPC meetings, how to join the LEPC.
Question?
Yeah,
Maybe under tier 2 reporting, just very, it'd be very hard to provide a synopsis, but maybe something that is.
okay. Very good point. Yeah, this was just a quick mock-up, so I don't know that that's going to be the final wording on anything, but any suggestions? And then just kind of some more information we already have on how to do that, but then helpful documents, and this was just kind of a thrown together idea of what we get more information on that. And then what we already have there is the historical agendas and minutes. Recorded meetings could go in there or up in the meetings box as well. And then I was going to add a fourth box, which is just news and updates. Is there something, something that just happened, a major incident like that, that Ohio train chemical spill, or anything that would be relevant to sort of bring to the attention of the public that might be useful.
Like household chemical collection waste,
Yeah,
household chemical waste collection.
definitely.
Definitely, I can see that one.
Yeah, maybe a link to.
This is just being built out now, so I mean, it's kind of, it's a draft, but
Looks good.
the idea behind it again is just give a place where people can go to easily. Or they can use the QR code to link into the LEPC site. It satisfies our community fairness and also our community right to know act fairly easily. That people could just go to the site 24/7. They don't need to have a brochure in their hand or whatever. And so that's kind of the idea. We might end up putting some training videos or something on there as well. That might be another step in the evolution, that we can put videos on shelter in place and videos on evacuation and some of those things on here. The other good thing about this, it can be done in multiple languages, I believe. If it's one of our county web pages, there's 160 languages. There's such on there. So that helps meet that requirement as well.
This is just a PDF that's a mock-up of a web page, so it doesn't have any active links on it, but I know that on our website, you can click and convert the page into
160 languages, so.
Thanks, Ron. That's
Yeah, that just satisfies that requirement as well as being accessible and.
And one of these also should be should have a box that's kind of public. The public needs to know, and there's kind of an orphan page. You actually have to search for it to find it, but it is actually still live. I'm updating the language on that as well. And that talks about shelter in place and evacuation. And it's pretty extensive. I want to make sure that we kind of make sure it's in bite size, not too long in the format. But we'll have some pointers on just what does it mean if we do have an evacuation or shelter in place. Because everybody says shelter in place, but what's it mean? What do you do? What are you supposed to do when you hear that? So I think that would be really valuable to make sure it's linked on here. So that's my report on that. And then, so this page would be, or that specific box on what you do if you need to know as a citizen of the county, then that QR code would link either here or to that box specifically. Sharing.
Probably add some additional information on there, like for requests.
That's a good
Know how to do that and get information.
Any questions about that?
Were you still looking for someone to sit at a table then at the Adams County Fair?
Sure. Yeah, let's plan that ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I won't be here. So.
One of the things is that, Kyle Lopez from our office has been doing a lot of public outreach. It's his job to do emergency preparedness for the communities. And so he's agreed to bring that poster along when he goes out for people to see information. So that's kind of built in, but it would be really great if we could get a committee or just a couple of volunteers to say, hey, if we do one of these, we hear that, Brighton's having Brighton days. Somebody could come out, get a table, bring a poster, and a couple hours out and just educate the community.
Wait, someone from my office? Or
Sorry?
So like working through my office
Sorry, it
or
would be working.
something?
If we're welcome, I didn't mean to.
Oh, you're, no, of course you're welcome. But I guess I just wonder, is it efficient to have your own space for it? Or would it be better to share that with, my volunteers that are already out there?
Well, yeah, that would be fine if, I kind of just threw out right
Yeah.
because you're here, but any other.
Which is how we've done it before, but I guess if, you think there's a need or, we're not just wasting someone's time, duplicating information. If there's a way that could work better or differently, I would certainly be open to that.
Case by case basis, because I think it'd always be in conjunction with, but it depends on, it's like, if you're sitting at a table for Brighton, there's no point in having somebody from the LEPC there because if somebody has no questions.
I'm not sitting at a table for Brighton, to come in and do both for me. But, certainly we'd be willing to bring in LEPC information, and then we've got kind of Brighton OEM and Brighton CERT and, working with fire and police there as well. So I think just bringing in some LEPC materials would be a good fit there. But if there's a robust enough LEPC program, that would warrant kind of its own section and to work in conjunction with us. I don't see that. I can't visualize that, but certainly we could talk about how that could work and, that could help kind of complement that safety aspect that we try to bring to all of our.
Do you have any series of presentations for the community?
No, most of them are kind of one-offs. So, we work really closely with the hospital. We work really closely with our senior center and our rec center. So we do a lot of kind of one-offs and 101s. So could always include that in there. Again, if that's just kind of up there and they can download their QR code and take that home with them, I think that would be, and, oh, hey, we brought this poster and this is what it is. I'm certainly capable of the 1 minute spiel, not the, 3 hour spiel, but so I think there's certainly some opportunities there. There's series in Brighton that I know of coming up, but even the one-offs, I think it could work well.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? Anybody online? Jump in. Anybody in the room?
So looks like there's a message in the chat from Ryan about BLAS scheduling household waste events at their facility.
Key area.
Yeah, that's one.
Remember that? Okay.
The July 22, 26, and 29.
Make sure we wasn't added to it.
Do we have dates for the LEPC conference? It's always the same time, but it's 5th through the 8th. It's really of September.
September.
Yeah. It's always the same, but it's always nice to be like, this isn't when I think it is. This is when it actually is.
It's ranged in there someplace.
Yeah, and then there's always a holiday in there to play with too.
Yeah.
So.
And we get automatically get two seats at the conference. Each LEPC automatically gets 2. I always, dare I say, embarrass the state in giving us a couple more because we have such a big LEPC. And then I generally like to send 4 to 6 people to the LEPC conference. So if you're interested, start thinking about it. Check your calendar for that September 5 to 8 period. And it's always worthwhile. You've never been before. It's a great outreach opportunity. Find out what's going on. You're always going to learn something about the LEPC. The LEPC's statewide and nationwide. I would encourage anybody, like I said, that if you want to go, make sure that we know about it. Pretty much goes through Dean, but then as the executive board and the chair, it's up to me to notify the state who has been selected to go on the state's dime. Like I said, there's always 2 positions there. I usually try and get them up for 2 more. Last year we had, I think we had 6 people there. Because Mark and I ended up paying because they said they had a full house. They said there were no empty seats this time. But I would encourage anybody in the LEPC that wants to go to the conference to, like I said, clear those dates on your calendar and make sure that we know about it so that we can get you in the running. And then work it up from there. All right, anything else? Motion to adjourn? All in favor? Leave. All opposed? Stick around and wait for lunch. All right, thank you very much for being here. We'll see you at the next meeting again in July 2nd. And in the meantime, be safe. Enjoy the weather. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.